until a few months ago, I would have considered myself pretty good with money. In the last 10 years, I've graduated college, paid off student loans, paid off car loans, moved, changed careers a few times, and I've ended up pretty good on the other side. I would even say that I was in a position that I felt like I could give advice to other people because I've done all right for myself to this point. And then I bought this book, and everything changed for the better. Now, this book taught me that money is not a very scientific thing. I mean, it is a scientific thing, but it's so much more driven by the way we think about it, the psychology of money, hence the title of the book. So I want to share advice, not advice, I want to share some of the biggest ideas from this book that shaped how I'm thinking about money. The first idea is that we don't know what we don't know. And this might seem obvious, but it's not the way that I thought obvious it was. It's something else. You see, as humans, we find that we are very good at convincing ourselves that we understand what's going on. We interpret events near and far from us through a lens, through some sort of explanation. We might say, oh, look, that lady's sad. Well, obviously it's because it's raining outside and her outfit looks terrible. Or, hey, that guy's down on his luck. Well, he obviously made bad choices and upset somebody in his life. We tell ourselves these stories, we don't even realize we're doing it. Morgan Housel tells the story about his daughter being 2 years old, that she doesn't realize that she doesn't know what's going on in the world. She has a perfectly valid explanation in her mind of how events around her are occurring. Things like, dad is loving, mom puts food on the table, we have time as a family, but she doesn't know all the things that go behind it, all the stresses that her parents might hide from her. Her interpretation of the world is very different than the reality of the events around her because she tells herself these stories. When I was a teenager, I did the exact same thing, and my parents would tell me, oh, Kevin, you're a know-it-all. And I would say, well, duh, mom and dad, I know everything. But the truth is, like, I was doing that as a teenager, and I continue to do that as an adult. And I'm sure that a lot of people do this all the time, especially with money. So the lesson, when it comes back to money, if you bring it all back to money, is that when it comes to money and we think we know what's going on, this leads to a level of overconfidence. An overconfidence of how the market works. An overconfidence of how secure our retirement is. An overconfidence of the decisions and the bets that we make in life with money-related issues. And to draw it all back, it's better to be humble, realize you don't know everything, and ask more questions before making decisions or while making decisions about your money. The second idea is that money is all about playing the odds. And I'm not talking about gambling. The point here is that we have to make a level of calculated risks throughout our life, a lot of little bets. And we only need a small amount of them to really pay off because people get lucky and some people get unlucky. That's just how it goes. When Bill Gates was growing up, he had a friend named Kent Evans. Kent Evans was like Bill Gates, super, super smart. The two of them, ambitious as always, talked about what life after high school would be like. Bill Gates went on to found Microsoft. Kent Evans didn't join him. And the only reason? Kent Evans passed away in a tragic accident, totally unrelated to all of that. The idea is that, like, some of us get dealt bad hands. Bad things happen. There's unluck in the world. But there's also luck. And when it comes to money, understanding that concept helps us to reframe the way that we think about making bets. If you play your hand way too hard and it doesn't go well, well, you're going to be out of luck. You won't be able to play the game anymore. You'll go bankrupt. But in order to get lucky, you just have to kind of continue to make small, calculated bets, age appropriate for wherever you're at in money, because eventually at some point, one of them is going to pay off. Am I saying to play the stock market like that? No, this, like I said, this isn't advice. But what I am saying is that if you always play it safe, you're never going to really get lucky because your luck profile, the odds of something in your little bucket of things actually popping off is super low. But if you continue to try new things and continue to invest in new ways and continue to try different operations of managing your money, well, maybe one of those will pay off because, you know, over time, eventually, most people get lucky. The third idea, probably my favorite idea from the book, is that money doesn't buy happiness. Control over our time does. When I was growing up, I had a job at Home Depot. I loved that job. I would open the store, I would restock the shelves, I would talk to customers, I would be bright and cheery and happy, and I would load things into their cars. And actually, it was a lot of fun. I got to work with some friends, I made some new friends, I loved the job. At the end of the summer, the second summer working there, they offered me a full-time position. And I declined because I was going to school to be an engineer at the time. But I wouldn't have said yes anyways because I didn't have control over my schedule. I was told what days and what hours I'd be working every 2 weeks. And it was like always in flux. Sometimes it'd be Saturdays, sometimes it'd be mornings, sometimes it'd be nights. And that kind of drove me crazy. And the idea is that like even though I loved the job, I was doing the job in hours that I didn't like. Morgan calls this reactancy, this idea of like doing something you love, but on a schedule you hate. And that's what he argues, and I believe also that true happiness comes from having control over your time. Not what you buy, and not how much you make. Like, we've all met plenty of people who have plenty of money, and they're just kind of unhappy in the world. But having control of your time makes a big difference. Talk to any entrepreneur, anybody who's kind of jumped off the ship from the 9 to 5 to start their own thing, and they'll all tell you a similar thing. Like, yeah, I work a lot, but I get to pick and choose the hours that I work. I get to say yes to things. I get to say no to things. I have full agency over that. And that makes people a lot happier, even if they aren't commanding the same salary that they would have if they were in a 9 to 5 or in this Home Depot type situation. And money comes back into it because money is the vehicle from which most of us get to have that control over our time. A lot of people, when you're starting out, you're trading your time for money. That's what I was doing at Home Depot. I was trading my time for money. And as I've kind of progressed to get to where I'm at right now, I'm self-employed, I have some side hustles. I'm not directly trading my time for money. A lot of my efforts, they do take some time, but it's not a one-for-one like it used to be. But I couldn't do that if I didn't get the money situation all figured out to get there. The fourth idea is kind of funny. It's when you spend the money, you get the thing that you bought and the money is gone. If you think about money as a gateway to an opportunity, like you spend money and you can have an experience, or you spend money and you can get this thing, or you spend money and you can help somebody out. Money is that kind of huge opportunity. Anything on the other side of the money is what you get for it. Well, when you realize the money, that opportunity is gone after it's spent, and you really think about that, it makes you say, well, it better be worth whatever I'm doing there. And we buy a lot of things beyond our needs. We buy a lot of things that bring us that short-term happiness. But you can't take a lot of that with you, like obviously when you die, but even like as you grow older, like a lot of the stuff we buy, it wears out, the novelty is gone. But you can take your memories and your experiences. So for me, when I kind of read through this point in the book, I went, wow, that's, maybe I should be spending a little more time thinking about how do I stretch my money to use the opportunities it grants me in a more impactful, meaningful way. And the final idea is that everybody is playing a different game in money than you are, than I am, than he is, than she is. If legendary coach Phil Jackson showed up to my sister's 3rd grade basketball team to try to introduce the triangle offense to them, that would be a complete waste of time. No offense to my sister, but in 3rd grade, all of her teammates and herself are just trying to figure out what's going on. Some of them are, really serious about basketball, small amount of them. Another amount are just waiting for it to get over so they can go home and play with their friends. And some of them are just like, I don't really know, I'm trying, but like, it's really not going. Phil Jackson would be throwing pearls to swine in a way, because at the game that my sister and her team are playing is a different game than the Chicago Bulls are playing in the NBA. There's levels to this thing. So when you take advice from somebody about money and they're in a place of wealth, or they're in a place of like tremendous success, or they took a completely different path than you did, well, you have to filter that advice. It's not all bad. Like, it doesn't make the triangle offense a bad decision. It's just like, maybe you're not ready for that. Maybe first you need to pay off your debt. Maybe first you need to secure a job, or maybe first, if you're starting a business, you need to hire some people and delegate some of that time out. It's all about understanding that the advice that you get from your influences needs to be filtered and brought to your own situation. It also changes how we give advice to others about money, because the place we come from, the way that we think about money, our experiences, our upbringing, our risks, our failures, our successes, our getting lucky is all different than the people that we're talking to. So it's not that we shouldn't have people influencing how we think about money. It's that we need to name their game, and more importantly, we need to name the game that we're playing. This book is pretty incredible, so I recommend checking it out. I've got a link in the description below. The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. absolutely changed the way I think about money. And I'm not just saying that, it really did. Even though I felt like I knew what was going on, I realized how little I don't actually know. So that's all I have. I hope some of this was useful, helpful, insightful, entertaining, whatever. Anyways, have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video.